Hello and welcome to today's podcast. I'm so excited to have you here with me as we talk about a topic that many English learners wonder about: how to learn English effortlessly. If you've ever felt like learning English is too hard or that it takes too much time, then this podcast is just for you. First, let me introduce myself. I'm Julia, and I've been helping people just like you learn English in a way that's easy, natural, and enjoyable. Over the years, I've seen how many students get frustrated with traditional methods. They often feel like they're not improving as quickly as they'd like. But the truth is, learning English doesn't have to be a struggle. It doesn't have to feel like a big challenge every day. In fact, learning English can be simple, fun, and yes, effortless. Now, you might be asking, how can learning English be effortless? Well, let me tell you, it's all about changing the way you approach learning. You don't need to study for hours every day or memorize long lists of vocabulary. Instead, you can start making small changes to how you practice English that will help you improve naturally without feeling stressed or overwhelmed. In this podcast, I'm going to share with you some simple and practical tips that you can start using right away. Whether you're just starting to learn English or you've been practicing for a while, these tips will help you practice speaking and listening in a way that fits into your everyday life. You'll learn how to immerse yourself in English, make listening and speaking a daily habit, and most importantly, keep your learning fun and motivating. I want you to remember one thing. You are already capable of learning English, and you don't have to do it the hard way. The key is to approach it with patience, consistency, and a positive mindset. In today's episode, we'll explore how to make English learning a part of your life in a way that feels easy and enjoyable. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into the world of effortless English learning. Together, understanding the concept of effortless learning. Before we dive into the methods that make learning English easier, let's first talk about what we really mean by effortless learning. You might be thinking, is it really possible to learn something as complex as English without feeling like it's hard work? The answer is yes, and here's why. When we think of learning, we often imagine sitting at a desk, memorizing vocabulary, and going through endless grammar rules. We may picture ourselves studying for hours, feeling stressed, and constantly worrying if we're making progress. But this traditional way of learning isn't always the most effective, especially when it comes to learning a language like English. Instead of thinking of learning as something that requires intense effort and frustration, think of it as something natural and fun. This is what we mean by effortless learning. Effortless learning is about removing the pressure and stress that often come with learning a language. It's about using methods that feel easy, enjoyable, and even relaxing. Imagine that instead of forcing yourself to study for hours or feeling anxious about making mistakes, you're learning English by simply living in it. This might sound too good to be true, but it's not. In fact, it's something that many successful language learners do. Here's how you can start thinking of learning English as effortless. 1. Shift your mindset. The first step to effortless learning is changing the way you think about learning itself. Many learners believe that they need to work extremely hard or memorize everything to succeed. But learning doesn't have to be a struggle. If you approach English with a positive mindset, focusing on progress rather than perfection, you'll start to enjoy the process. The less pressure you put on yourself, the more natural your learning will feel. 2. Learn through experience, not memorization. One of the biggest mistakes people make when learning English is focusing too much on memorizing words and grammar rules. Yes, vocabulary and grammar are important, but they shouldn't be the only focus. Instead, try learning English through real experiences. This means listening to podcasts, watching TV shows, reading books, and having conversations in English. When you're exposed to English in real situations, you start to understand it naturally without having to memorize everything. Think about how you learned your first language as a child. You didn't sit down and study grammar rules. You learned by listening, watching, and interacting with others. The more you're exposed to the language, the better you get at using it. The same goes for English. The more you surround yourself with English, the easier it will be to pick it up. 3. Make learning part of your daily life. Effortless learning happens when you make English a part of your everyday routine. Instead of setting aside hours for study, incorporate English into activities you already do. This might mean listening to an English podcast while commuting, watching movies with English subtitles, or changing your phone's language settings to English. These small changes add up and help you get more comfortable with the language over time. 4. Focus on listening and speaking. A common challenge for many learners is speaking English fluently. We often feel nervous about making mistakes, so we avoid speaking. However, one of the easiest ways to learn English effortlessly is by focusing on listening and speaking. These are the most natural ways we learn languages. When you listen to English regularly, you start to pick up on new words, phrases, and sentence structures. Similarly, when you practice speaking, you start using those words in real conversations. Don't worry about being perfect. The goal is to get comfortable. The more you listen and speak, the easier and more natural it will become. 5. Celebrate small wins. Learning English effortlessly is not about achieving perfection overnight. It's about making small, steady progress over time. Celebrate every little victory, whether it's understanding a new word, completing a short conversation, or watching a movie without subtitles. When you focus on small wins, you stay motivated and keep improving without feeling overwhelmed. 6. Consistency over intensity. One key to effortless learning is consistency, not intensity. Many learners think they need to study for hours to make progress, but that's not true. It's much better to practice for a short time every day than to study for hours once a week. Even 15 minutes a day adds up. If you're consistent, small daily habits lead to big results. 7. Let it be fun. Finally, effortless learning is all about having fun. If you enjoy the process, you'll want to keep learning. Find ways to make English interesting for you through music, TV shows, games, or conversations. The more you enjoy learning, the less it feels like work, and the faster you'll improve. Speaking is a skill that requires practice. But don't worry, you don't need to wait until you're perfect to start. The more you practice speaking, the easier and more natural it will become. 8. Use your interests as a learning tool. One powerful way to make learning effortless is to connect it with your personal interests. Do you love cooking? Watch English cooking shows? Or read recipes in English? Are you into sports, technology, or fashion? Follow English-speaking YouTubers, bloggers, or podcasts in those areas. When you learn English through topics you already enjoy, it doesn't feel like studying. It feels like discovering. This emotional connection keeps your motivation high and helps you absorb the language more naturally. 9. Don't fear mistakes. Learn from them. Mistakes are a natural and necessary part of learning, but many learners fear making them, especially when speaking. The truth is, every mistake is a step forward. Each one gives you feedback and helps you grow. When you stop fearing mistakes and start using them as learning opportunities, your confidence grows, and learning becomes less stressful. Remember, even native speakers make mistakes. It's not about being perfect, it's about communicating and improving over time. 10. Create a language immersion environment. You don't need to live in an English-speaking country to immerse yourself in the language. You can create your own English world wherever you are. Surround yourself with English every day. Label items in your house, talk to yourself in English, think in English, and even dream in English. The more you live in the language, the more natural it becomes. Immersion is the closest thing to effortless learning. It turns your whole day into practice without it feeling like work. 11th, be patient with yourself. Language learning is a journey, not a race. Some days you'll feel great. Other days you might feel stuck. That's completely normal. Don't compare your progress to others. Focus on your own path. If you stay patient and kind to yourself, you'll avoid burnout and continue making progress, even on the tough days. Effortless learning doesn't mean learning without any challenge. It means learning with ease, with flow, and with self-compassion. 12. Believe that you can do it. The most important part of learning anything, especially a language, is believing in your ability to succeed. If you constantly tell yourself, English is too hard, or I'll never be fluent, you create mental blocks that stop your progress. But when you tell yourself, I can learn this, or I'm improving every day, you build momentum. Belief is powerful. When you believe learning can be effortless, your actions start to match that belief, and it becomes your reality. Speak as much as possible. One of the most powerful ways to improve your speaking skills is simply to speak frequently and confidently. The more you use your voice, the more natural speaking English will feel. Don't wait until you think you're ready or good enough. Start now. It might feel intimidating at first. You might hesitate, get stuck on words, or feel self-conscious. That's okay. Every fluent speaker you admire once felt that way too. The key is to push through the discomfort. Speaking regularly builds fluency, confidence, and rhythm over time. If you don't have someone to talk to in person, don't worry. Technology gives you endless options. You can join English conversation apps, virtual discussion groups, or participate in online classes. Practicing with native speakers is fantastic, but speaking with fellow learners can be just as valuable. Can't find a partner? Practice speaking alone. Yes, really. Talk to yourself in English. Describe what you're doing as you go through your day. I'm making tea. I'm going to the store. I need to finish my homework. This turns everyday moments into speaking practice. You can also speak about your plans or reflect on your thoughts aloud in English. What happened during your day? What are you thinking about? This not only improves your fluency, it helps you think in English, which is a powerful step forward. Take it a step further and record yourself. Talk into your phone or computer, then listen to your recordings. This gives you a chance to hear how you sound, catch pronunciation issues, and notice words or phrases you struggle with. It may feel strange at first, but it's one of the most effective ways to self-correct and improve. Don't fear mistakes. Many learners feel embarrassed or nervous when they make mistakes in English. But here's the truth. Mistakes are a sign you're learning. They show that you're using the language, not just studying it. In fact, making mistakes is how we grow. Children make thousands of mistakes when learning to speak, but they don't stop trying. That's why they learn so fast. You can adopt the same mindset. When you say something wrong, don't freeze or feel ashamed. Just notice it, correct it if you can, and move on. Over time, these corrections will become automatic. You'll get faster, more fluent, and more accurate. Remember, people won't judge you for making mistakes. They'll respect you for trying to speak a second language. The most important thing is to keep going. Find a language exchange partner. A language exchange partner can be one of the best ways to practice speaking English consistently. This is someone who speaks English and wants to learn your native language. You teach each other by having real conversations. This approach is powerful because it's based on communication, not perfection. You don't need to worry about being a student. You're both helping each other, which creates a relaxed, supportive environment. You can find partners through apps like HelloTalk, Tandem, Speaky, or even in social media groups. When you find the right match, set up regular times to talk. You might do 30 minutes in your language, then 30 minutes in English. Not only will this improve your speaking skills, but you'll also build friendships with people from around the world. Learning becomes exciting and meaningful when it's connected to real human interaction. Join online speaking clubs or classes. If you're serious about speaking fluently, consider joining an English-speaking community. There are many online clubs, group classes, and conversation meetups designed for learners just like you. These clubs offer structured yet relaxed opportunities to speak. You can discuss interesting topics, share opinions, and listen to others, all while practicing your English in a friendly setting. You'll also receive helpful feedback and encouragement from teachers or more experienced learners. The more you engage, the more your confidence will grow. And here's the best part. You'll realize you're not alone. Thousands of people around the world are learning English too, facing the same challenges and working toward the same goals. Being part of a community gives you motivation and support when you need it most. Imitate native speakers. Want to sound more natural when you speak? Try imitating native English speakers. This method, called shadowing, involves listening to someone speak, then repeating what they say immediately after, copying their tone, rhythm, and pronunciation. You can do this with podcasts, YouTube videos, TED Talks, or TV shows. Choose a speaker you enjoy, listen closely, and repeat their words out loud. Try to match their voice as closely as possible. This technique is powerful because it trains your ear, your mouth, and your brain all at the same time. You'll learn how native speakers connect words, use intonation, and emphasize different parts of a sentence. With enough practice, you'll start to speak with more fluency and confidence, and your accent and rhythm will naturally improve. Set realistic speaking goals. If you want to improve your speaking skills, you need clear and realistic goals. Don't just say, "I want to speak fluently." Instead, break that big goal into small, achievable steps. For example, I will speak in English for 5 minutes every day. I will introduce myself to a new partner in English this week. I will join one online English conversation group every weekend. I will record myself talking about my favorite movie. These small goals create momentum. Every time you achieve one, you build confidence and take a step closer to fluency. Over time, those short daily efforts turn into lasting speaking skills. Fluency doesn't come overnight, but with steady, realistic goals, it will come. The power of combining listening and speaking. The true magic happens when you combine listening and speaking. The more you listen, the more you will hear new words, phrases, and structures that you can use when you speak. Similarly, speaking regularly will reinforce the language patterns you've learned through listening. The goal is to create a cycle where listening and speaking feed into each other. As you listen more, you'll understand better. And as you speak more, you'll feel more confident in your ability to communicate. With consistent practice, these skills will begin to feel natural, making English learning an effortless process. Learn vocabulary in context. When it comes to learning English, one of the most effective ways to expand your vocabulary is to learn words in context. Simply memorizing a list of new words without understanding how they fit into real-life situations can make them harder to remember and use. Instead, learning vocabulary through context helps you understand the meaning, usage, and nuances of words more naturally. In this section, we'll explore why learning vocabulary in context is important and how you can do it effectively. Why learning vocabulary in context matters, improves retention. When you learn a word through context, you're more likely to remember it. Understanding how a word is used in a sentence or story gives you a mental image of it in action. This helps you recall the word when you need it in your own conversations or writing. Helps you understand nuances. Many English words have multiple meanings or different uses depending on the context. For example, the word bank can refer to a financial institution or the side of a river. If you only learn the word in isolation, you might not understand which meaning to use in a particular situation. Context helps you grasp these subtleties. Supports natural use of vocabulary. Knowing a word's definition is only part of the learning process. You also need to understand how it sounds, how it's pronounced, and how it fits grammatically into sentences. Learning words in context helps you use them correctly and naturally, makes learning fun and engaging. Learning vocabulary in context, such as through stories, movies, or songs, keeps the process interesting. You're not just memorizing words, but discovering them as part of a real, engaging story or conversation. This makes the learning experience more enjoyable and less boring. How to learn vocabulary in context. Read stories and articles. One of the best ways to learn vocabulary in context is through reading. When you read books, stories, articles, or blog posts, you're constantly exposed to new words in real-life situations. For example, when you read a novel, you encounter words used in conversations, descriptions, and settings. Try to guess the meaning of unknown words based on the surrounding sentences. This will help you better understand how those words are used. Tip: Choose reading material that is interesting to you. If you enjoy the topic, you'll be more likely to stay engaged and pick up new words without even realizing it. Watch movies and TV shows. Watching movies or TV shows in English is another fantastic way to learn vocabulary in context. Hearing words used in natural conversations allows you to understand not only their meaning, but also how they are pronounced and used in real-world situations. You can also see the body language, gestures, and emotions of the speakers, which helps you understand the meaning behind the words even more clearly. Tip: start with subtitles in your native language if necessary, and gradually switch to English subtitles as your level improves. Listen to podcasts and audiobooks. Listening to podcasts or audiobooks is a great way to immerse yourself in English. Similar to movies and TV shows, podcasts provide context through spoken words. You'll hear words used in different topics, and the context will give you a better understanding of their meanings. Audiobooks are especially useful if you want to see the written form of the words while you listen, reinforcing what you hear. Tip: after listening to a podcast or audiobook, try summarizing the main points in your own words using the new vocabulary you've learned. Engage in conversations. Speaking with others is a powerful way to learn vocabulary in context. Whether you're talking to a friend, a language partner, or a teacher, conversations allow you to use new words and see how others use them. As you practice speaking, you'll learn how words fit naturally into sentences, helping you improve both your vocabulary and fluency. Tip: don't be afraid to make mistakes. The more you practice using new words, the more confident and fluent you will become. Use vocabulary in sentences. Rather than just memorizing vocabulary lists, try to use new words in sentences. This helps you remember them and understand how they fit into your own communication. For example, when you learn a new word, make an effort to write it down in a sentence. By doing this, you connect the word with its proper usage and context. Tip: start with simple sentences and gradually increase the complexity as you become more comfortable. Group words by themes or categories. Grouping words by themes or categories, such as food, travel, emotions, or work, helps you learn them in a more organized way. For example, if you're learning words related to food, you might learn words like delicious, spicy, sour, and bitter together. This way, you learn the words in a related context, which makes it easier to remember and use them correctly. Tip: use flashcards or apps like Anki or Quizlet to group related vocabulary together. You can create sets of words that go together and test yourself regularly. Make connections to your own life. To make new vocabulary stick, try to relate the words to your personal experiences. For example, if you learn the word adventure, think about your own travels or exciting experiences. When you make these personal connections, the words become more meaningful and easier to remember. Tip: keep a vocabulary journal where you write down new words and include personal examples of how the words connect to your life. The power of repetition and practice. No matter how you choose to learn vocabulary in context, repetition is key. The more you encounter a word in different contexts, the more deeply it will become embedded in your memory. Repetition allows you to see how the word is used in various situations and reinforces your understanding of its meaning. Tip: review new vocabulary regularly. Go back to the stories, podcasts, or conversations where you learned new words and try to use them again. This will help you internalize the words and make them a natural part of your vocabulary. Practice consistently, not intensively. When it comes to learning a new language like English, one of the most important habits you can develop is consistent practice. Many learners believe that intensive study sessions, where they cram as much information as possible into a short time, are the best way to improve. However, research and experience show that consistent, regular practice is far more effective for long-term success. In the next section, we'll explore why practicing consistently is more beneficial than intensive practice, and how you can make this approach work for you. Conclusion: becoming a confident English speaker doesn't require perfection. It requires consistent practice, the right mindset, and a willingness to keep going, even when it feels challenging. The more you speak, listen, and engage with the language, the more natural it becomes. Surround yourself with English, find opportunities to use it every day, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. Whether you're talking to a language partner, speaking to yourself, or joining an online club, every moment you spend speaking brings you one step closer to fluency. Trust the process, stay motivated, and remember, learning English can be not only effective, but effortless when you enjoy the journey.